Hello, and welcome to another Road to Rawlock. This is our third one of these. My chair did not roll forward when I went to move. Once again, as per tradition, I need to turn this music down a little bit. It might not be that loud on your end, but it is considerably loud on my end. So I'm just going to turn it down a bit. Alright. This is our third week of talking about our upcoming Kickstarter. Rawlock's Guide to Violence. I finally got my hand motions correct for that, and got the prototypes in last week. We talked a bit about them then. Not much here, more print tests than anything else. Got to see some of the pretty pictures, what the text on the page is going to look like, how the printing is going to go. We covered all that last week. The cover is going to be much more red, more like what you see around here on the final one. But otherwise, pretty happy with how this has turned out so far. We'll see where it goes from there. For those of you who haven't seen us before, haven't been part of this, we are Gemhammer & Sons. We make more better game stuff. And we are making a brand new expansion to go along with our previous expansion, which was the Gemhammer Grimoire, which is a big book of magic items, available now at gemhammer.com. And this book, Rawlock's Guide to Violence, will be all the swords and sorcery that you want in your 5th edition game. It is not just weapons. It is... Sorry, I said swords and sorcery. This is the swords. The other one's the sorcery. It's weapon combat, weapon mastery, new forms of combat, all kinds of cool stuff. We ran through the table of contents a couple weeks ago, so if you missed those, be sure to check those out. So this week I wanted to answer questions that people might have had from previous weeks, and also kind of go over a little bit of what we have. I think I said for Feats, but I don't think I'm quite ready to talk about Feats, so we're not gonna. But I am gonna pull up the doc, if I can. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it'll allow me to. Anyway, so we talked a little bit about feats in general, especially in relation to our upcoming class, the warlord class. Previous editions of D&D had a fighter that was basically you just keep getting feats, and that is pretty much how we're building out this warlord class. It is very similar in the sense that you are taking a whole ton of feats, and with that in mind. In the same way that spells were a big component of the Gemhammer Grimoire, combat and weapon feats will be a major component to Rawlock's Guide to Violence. So, if of course my Google Drive doesn't want to open for whatever reason, this is entirely my fault for not having this open to start with. So I'm going to jump into that. If anyone has any questions in the meantime about the project or what we're doing, feel free to let us know. The preview page is up on Kickstarter, so if you want to go check that out, when I post this video to our website, I will make sure to put that link in there, so you can get notified right away. You can also sign up for our newsletter at gemhammer.com, so you'll get notified in our outgoing correspondence when those go out weekly. Usually it's these or some other information. I hope to have some more stuff on the website about Rawlock's Guide to Violence very soon. But we will see. We will see what we can do with all that. One of the questions I had from last week while I'm pulling this out. I'll just go through some of those questions. One of the a question someone had sent me was, "When are you launching?" It was a very obvious question. I think we've covered it. But got asked the question anyway. It will tentatively, October 15th seems to be the day. That's what we're looking at. That's what we're planning for. That's what we're excited to do, is tentatively October 15th. So it's a bit away, I understand. Some people are like, "Oh, this is really cool, and I already have the Grimoire. When does this come out so I can get it?" And it's going to be a little bit. You're going to be waiting until the fall. So October 15th, put it in your calendars. Get real excited. Last week we talked all about the pledge levels, so go watch that video if you missed it. Here we are in Rawlock. content. Oh my god, all the secret stuff that's in here. So, for every combat style, and this is not... We talked about new kinds of content, new kinds of content, and new kinds of combat in Rawlock's Guide. We talked about that quite a bit in weeks past. We were talking about new kinds of dueling. We're talking about performance combat, vehicular combat, fighting in groups, squad warfare, kind of a thing. Rules for that for 5th edition to give more different combat options. Not just straight normal initiative, slightly different rules for chases, things like that. But there's also like individual combat mastery, rules for combat. So, and that's what I'm talking about here. Is a lot of these feats are built around play styles, and we want to lean hard into play styles that some people might have. You know what? We've done the heavy metal thing a lot, and like the dubs and wubs just happened, and I feel compelled to tone that back slightly. Also, I have this so that there's no voices. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that wasn't someone talking, but it sounded like someone talking. Let's see, lo-fi. You know what? I keep threatening to do this. I'm doing it. You can't stop me. I'm doing lo-fi. Is there any music playing at all? I can't even tell. You know what? This is fine. Close enough. Alright, so a much more relaxed, a much more chill Road to Rawlock. A much less brutal Road to Rawlock this week, because the wubs and dubs were just a little too distracting. Pardon me while I get a drink. So, as I was saying, with these feats, we want to lean hard into cool play styles, unique weapons, unique weapon traits. We have a whole list of new weapon traits. We have playtested some of these. We have not playtested others. And there of course there are weapon traits already in the game, but these will be new ones that don't presently exist in the game. We are also going to be adding... I haven't talked about this. This like kind of goes with the feats, so we'll talk about this first. New weapon traits, new weapon materials, and so you could have, aside from magic items that we are going to have in the game, or in the book, I should say, a whole lot of magic items that we are going to have in the book. Probably in the neighborhood of 100 or more, depending on stretch goals. Would probably be more, but with all these new traits that we're putting together, with all these new materials, you could buy a longsword, and we'll have rules for what the price increases are for some of these traits and for some of these materials, that it'll make getting some of these more mundane weapons or even semi-magical weapons, and I'll explain what that means in a bit, without having to have your box standard, here's your magic item with a stat block. This is going to be a much easier, here's what these materials are, and here's what these properties are, and if you want to buy a longsword that is serrated and made of warpwood, it's got a warpwood handle, or I don't think a sword should be made of wood. That would be like a club, but we've already gone here. So, but you would now have the rules for those properties and what those weapon traits do. So we've got a whole list of weapon traits, and they are broken up into categories, as will also be our new weapons and even some of the weapon materials, although that may change. I'm not completely sold on that. And right now those categories are going to be general, advanced, exotic, primal, and there was one more, ascended. So the materials and the properties that go with those categories will ultimately be tied to stretch goals. When we hit the stretch goals for, say, primal weapons, we will add all the primal weapons to the game. The general template for this that you might say is we're going to have exotic weapons in the game. Now, some of you will recognize these as exotic weapons from previous editions of the game, but we're not taking such a hard stance on, oh, these are shuriken and these are nunchucks. You know, these are not your Eastern weapons from D&D past. This is any weapon that could be very difficult to find and require special training to use. It is not a simple weapon. It is not a martial weapon. It is an exotic weapon. It is more like a martial. It is its own category of weapons, in much the same way that primal, advanced, and ascended weapons will also be their own category of weapons. Obviously, to use these weapons, in the same way that you would need to use simple weapons or martial weapons, you will need proficiencies. So, even just with the categories of weapons, you will need a proficiency to use them. Some of the feats will be built out around gaining proficiency. There will be some backgrounds that will give you proficiency in a single weapon in some of these categories. Ascended weapons will not have a background that gives you that. Because sometimes people just want to build a character and they don't want to. They want to build a character and they want to play a character and they don't want to wait 5 levels or whatever it is, depending, to suddenly be able to use the sword they want to use. Like waiting for entire core pieces of your character to come online, I find very frustrating. So some of these proficiencies will be available in backgrounds, but not the full spectrum. You're not going to get all exotic weapons are available to you because you have this minor background. Like that's not going to happen. But if you wanted to be someone that uses bolas, bolas. You know, I don't really know how that word's pronounced. You know, I'm gonna go with lasso. Lasso, combat shovel. Combat shovel. I'm gonna go with combat shovel. You're someone that wants to use a combat shovel. Hey, Green Pengu. I'm gonna call you Green Pengu. Hey, Green Pengu, how's it going? What's going on? Thanks for joining the chat. In case you missed it, here I'm gonna post them again. Thanks for watching, and you can learn more about Warlock's Guide to Violence and get yourself 20% off at shop.jimhammer.com for joining us today. Thank you so much. Welcome. Sorry if you posted that a little while ago. I just noticed it now. It's the same. It's the chat streams, like everything's the same color. So like all my links and everything, it's like your name identical to the link color above it. So I didn't even notice. But where was I? Well, so if I wanted to use a combat shovel, for instance, then I would need an exotic. Right now, it's an exotic weapon. I would need proficiency in exotic weapons, and maybe my background gives me one exotic weapon background proficiency in a single exotic weapon. To be able to use any exotic weapon, well, then you would need a feat that gives you exotic weapon proficiency, and that will also be true for primal weapons, primal weapon proficiency, advanced weapon proficiency, etc. You're probably saying, well, what are primal weapons? Primal weapons are going to be things more like boomerangs. They're going to be things like obsidian weapons. They're going to be a lot more makeshift stuff. I don't have the full list in front of me. There's about 25 of them, I believe. Advanced weapons will be semi-magical. That was what I was saying before about they're semi-magical, like a clockwork repeating crossbow. This is it's repeating. It doesn't have. It has an auto-loading function. It's something that you would not give your players at level 1. There will be no backgrounds for advanced weapons unless you're playing in a setting that has advanced weapons. Some firearms will fall into this category. Others won't. You know, a flintlock pistol will obviously not need an advanced weapon proficiency, although I mean it is more advanced than some things, but you know, you still need to, in much the same way you would need to reload a crossbow, you would have to reload a flintlock pistol, so we don't see that it needs to land in its own category. An auto saw was one of the ones that we built out. Magitech weapons. The Magitech weapons were more that semi-magical weapons, and so semi-magical weapons. These are weapons that do a cool thing at the cost of spell slots. So while they are not inherently magical, you can put your magic into them to then make them do a cool thing. It's automated. How is the hammer automated? I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to ask Joe about that. I don't remember why that's automated. I must have talked to him about it. How's an auto hammer? I don't know how that works. Sorry, I'm not showing this on the screen, so you can't see what I'm looking at. But it's just one of the properties caught my eye, and I'm like, what? That's silly. Ascended weapons. These are going to be. I haven't talked about ascended weapons. Now, primal. So, box standard. You get the book, Warlock's Guide to Violence. That's going to have your exotic weapons in there right out of the gate, along with new martial weapons, new simple weapons that we're going to put in there. Stretch goals will unlock additional exotic weapons as well as primal weapons and advanced weapons and the ascended weapons. Ascended weapons will be inherently magical, but they're also going to be their own category. And we're pretty sure they're going to require feats to use, or they're going to need to require some prerequisites for use. But they're going to be weapons that level with you. So when you first get them, they're not going to be all that great, but as your character levels up, they will become much better, and they will get cool, unique features and properties as you do. And we have some early artwork for this. I think next week I will show cool artwork that because we're starting to build a catalog of artwork for the book. Well, not starting. People have seen artwork from the book already. They've seen the test pages because it's on our website. But artwork is underway. We actually just had a conversation earlier this week about a new artist coming on board, so very excited about that. Very cool stuff on the way. So maybe I'll show off some of the artwork as it's happening, or maybe I'll do some live. I'll draw it here. But anyway, back to feats. So the reason I was talking about weapon types and weapon properties and weapon materials is because many of these feats will play into the new types of weapons. If anyone's seen the playtest that we had on our Lost Lore weeks back, some of those properties and weapons and those feats are there. And that was just kind of like a general spitballing. Let's see how this works out. And in some of the stuff that we've done behind the scenes privately, we've taken a look at the shields. It's a great example. So we did one that's the shields, and we've added a bunch of new shields. There's a throwing shield, here's a buckler, here's a tower shield, and here's not just a normal shield. Every shield is the same unless it has a magical property. Here's a whole bunch of new shields. And here's feats that let you do stuff with them. So, as you all know, you can't really dual wield two shields. You can't really use shields as a weapon, unless it's an improvised weapon, in which case it's not really working. So, new feats that are going to allow you to do that. They're going to let you use two shields. You progress far enough down that tree, you're going to be walking around with two tower shields effectively in two-thirds cover. I'm showing my age. I don't think that's how it works in 5th edition anymore. Anyway, you're walking around with a whole ton of AC, but there's going to be requirements. You'll need to have spec'd into the entire tree to get there. You're going to need to have a sufficient strength to be able to be carrying around two tower shields, walling yourself off. And you can't use them as weapons because they're tower shields. They're as tall as you are. So there'll be gives and takes just so that people will be able to build their character with more options, more cool options, what we think are cool options at any rate. So, sorry, my brain died there for a minute. It's been a long week, and we're just chugging right along. And October's coming quick. It's already the end of July. I can't believe it. Anyway, so shields are a great example. We're going to have a bunch of new shields in the same way that we're going to have a bunch new of a lot of weapons, and speccing into these weapons and their specific cool playstyles will necessitate you speccing into these feats. Now, we know that feats are expensive. Feats are very expensive in 5th edition. You're giving up your ability modifier. We have some variant rules for how that will work, including feats at first level for everybody, not just variant humans, although I imagine variant humans gets 2. Whatever. You talk to your DM about it. I'm not your DM. Well, maybe I am. If I am, I apologize for not being super clear. But it's very expensive to jump into feats, we know. So variant rules will be built into this. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, feats at first level or getting more feats. Well, there's going to be like feats are expensive, and we know that, which is why these feats are going to be cool. Specking into these feats is going to be cool because it's going to be expensive, and we know that. We understand that. The cost of an ability score modifier is huge in 5th edition. So ultimately, we know that if you're going to do that instead of just a static single number on your character sheet, that's going to everything in that category, that this better be a cool thing, and they're going to be. They're going to be, in fact, we've overtuned them a little bit. We need to start bringing them down. Our playtest is like, they're going to be cool, at any rate. But, so with the example with the shields, you want to use these shields, you want to be this cool double shield, tower shields guy, you can do that. And I don't think you're going to feel, if that's the way you want to play, I don't think you're going to feel like you got shortchanged on abilities, you got shortchanged on your progression, anything else like that. I think that people will generally like it. I think that there's a lot of cool stuff here that people are going to be really excited about. Very expansive trees to build into, like earlier editions of D&D, but also maybe you just want to like take a couple. But also, we have that oh my god, the warlord. I keep wanting to say war chief. I don't know why. I want to keep saying war chief, but it's warlord. But the warlord class, obviously, they're going to be able to get a bunch of these feats, which is why the feats are going to have different categories, and they're not just going to be able to dump everything right into all of these feats and have all the cool stuff. There's also prerequisites for feats. So, like, some feats will require you to be a certain level and have previous feats in the chain. So it's not going to be as simple as, well, cool, I'm the fighter that gets feats for days, so I just get I could just build whatever I want, however I want. You will need to hit prerequisites. You're going to have a lot more options, but you're still going to need to meet those prerequisites. So all these feats are built out that way. To start, we will have more feats as part of our stretch goals that will kind of figure into some of the additional weapons, and also some of these materials. I'm actually pretty excited. Like crafting. See, we're like on the edge of like going full-on crafting, and I'm not exactly sure that belongs in this book, but I feel like that's going to end up happening. Like, we've got all these new weapon materials and all these new properties. Gunsmithing is a thing that we're putting in here, and there's feats for gunsmithing and being able to make special types of ammunition. Another great thing about the feats. But we're like so close to just like going full. Here's a book that's weapons, and also, hey, here's cool rules for crafting new different kind of stuff. Pardon me, it's warm in here. I'm parched. So yeah, we are pretty excited about everything happening in this book. I'm very excited about the weapon materials. I kind of want to like go through those materials. So like the book is existing as a series of Word documents and spreadsheets, because we started layout, but it's all still primarily in the drive. Like the layout is right now just a bunch of boxes and pretty background art. So I apologize. I keep doing that. I keep like bumping the mic. Conor's not a professional streamer is the meme that I'm going to go with forever. You know what? I probably shouldn't jump in to this one. Annihilation Stone. These are the materials that I'm looking at. Annihilation Stone. I would love to hear people's feedback about this. This is going to be stone. A stone that has the inherent properties of a sphere of annihilation. and you will be able to make weapons out of this material. It's going to be hard to find. In much the same way that in our last book, The Grimoire, had these mana potions. Oh, there were these amazing, cool mana potions. Purified, or clarified? I don't remember. It's not right in front of me. It's been a little while. You have these mana potions that aren't colored with an elemental or prismatic affinity, but then you have some that do have that affinity, and they have these cool, unique properties. Well, here's a material that, in much the same way that, getting those mana potions, required you to go do a thing to get them. Unless your DM just said they're in the store, in which case, good for them. Using the book. Use it however you want. It's your book. But Annihilation Stone. I am delighted by the idea of Annihilation Stone. Right now, weapons made from Annihilation Stone have the additional effect. This would be a special property because of its material. 3 to attack and damage rolls. When you roll a 20 on an attack roll, the weapon deals an addition 4d10 force damage. Now you're probably saying to yourself, Connor, you madman, why would I ever put that in my game? Well, there's more than just that. It has other properties. So I'm not even done. But because weapons and armor and shields made out of this material will have different properties beyond just that effect. And now you're probably like, yikes, what on earth are you talking about? I don't want that in my game. What do you mean someone makes armor out of this thing? You're right. It's strong. But as with anything that we make, I also think about it in two directions. A lot of DMs will sit there and there was something in the Grimoire that someone said to me, like, man, that's real powerful. Like, that's real strong. Oh, it was the epic spells. And I think we actually put a little a little aside box in the Grimoire that was kind of like, hey, we know epic spells are pretty powerful, and you probably don't want your players to have it. But, there's more people in the world than just your players. Imagine a goblin, like just a single goblin, and they've just been stomping goblins into the earth forever, and this is just another goblin, except it's got like a hammer of Annihilation Stone. You're fighting a pirate ship that has cannonballs of annihilation. This adds these things existing in the world or having been procured, and there doesn't mean to say that they're a common thing in the world, or even like that more than one of these things exist at all. But the fact that any might exist and that your players may not have them, it's interesting to think about. I love doing stuff like that in games. Like, well, that's Annihilation Stone, weapons that have the properties of Spheres of Annihilation. Connor, that's too much, right? But no one said your players have them. Maybe you gotta get it from the big bad evil Bonvaran bad guy that you don't want to have this thing for obvious reasons. So just a little taste of materials and stuff like that. They're not all stupid broken the way Annihilation Stone is. Don't worry. But also, just like with epic spells in our last book, not all of these are necessarily intended for you to give to your players. Some of these might be intended for you to hand to an owlbear. An owlbear with claws of Annihilation Stone. That's insane. I've gone mad, clearly. I can't be trusted to do this, and yet I'm doing it anyway. This is the kind of fun, silly stuff I'm excited to do. There's whole bunches of these materials, crystallized slime, primordial ice, rust metal that rusts other metal, blood iron, lightning glass. These are going to be cool. I said I was going to talk about feats and I keep bouncing off, but I feel like so many, like, they all play into each other in such unique and interesting ways. Because some of like the crafting feats, like to be able to handle Annihilation Stone and to craft with it will require a feat. You're going to need that. You can't just like pick up a stone of annihilation and start hammering away at it and go, look, I made a hammerhead. Look, it's a cannonball now. Who knows what happens to you? You're going to need a feat or special training. And that's another thing that we're going to have in the game. And I keep saying the game. In Rawlock's Guide to Violence. Is special training. Special training, they're going to be a lot like feats, but it's going to be something that you do in your downtime. These are going to be things that, right now, there's, like, of course, there are rules for downtime in other books that are more official than mine. But we're thinking about new and cool different ways of using that downtime and how that might lead into future books. But for right now, in this, we're thinking about special training and how that works with your players and how they can gain the skills necessary to handle Annihilation Stone and turn it into a something. They have the skills necessary to build their own firearms, craft unique kinds of ammunition, be able to handle lightning glass and forge it into cool, interesting weapons and armor. Those are also some of the feats that will be appearing in Rawlock's Guide to Violence, and we're very excited. I'm very excited. The Grimoire was so much fun, and I'm really excited for this too. October's going to be cool, and I think you are all going to really love what we come up with here, because this is the tip of the iceberg. This is a spreadsheet of 35 materials, and we're not done, because some of these are going to be stretch goals, and I like even amounts. So there's some that haven't quite been fleshed out yet that haven't made it onto this spreadsheet yet. They're on the concept spreadsheet. We'll talk about magic items another time. So I'm just sitting here in the drive, like looking at what stuff can we talk about? Background. We're doing some cool stuff with backgrounds, and I think that relates to feats in small ways, because we're treating a lot of the backgrounds as almost like feats light. Because they kind of are, when you think about it. Like, backgrounds in a way are kind of like, here's 2 skill proficiencies and some stuff. And it's almost like a really bad, really low level feat that you get at first level. And I mean that's fine. I like backgrounds. I think they're cool. But I think that you can trade in some proficiencies to increase some of their unique features. Special features that backgrounds tend to have. And I think some of these backgrounds obviously they're going to have to work with the feats, because they're going to give you extra proficiencies and certain abilities, and obviously need to be balanced against each other. So backgrounds are going to be cool. Oh my god, there's so many of these. This is silly. I don't know. Do you want me to read through some of these backgrounds? Do people have questions? I'd much more answer people's questions than to just keep reading through spreadsheets. And I haven't even read through too much of them, and that's because I don't want to tip my hand too much. I don't want to give away the whole thing and be like, these are all the materials that you're gonna get. I'd like there to be some mystery and surprise and excitement when we start to reveal these things a little closer too. I said I was going to talk about feats, but the feats, it's less about them specifically and more about how we're treating them and how we want them to interact both with the materials and the weapons and the new weapon types and the weapon traits and properties. Weapon traits, yeah. Anyway. So I'll be talking for 40 minutes. I haven't got any questions. Pengu said hi. That was a while ago, though. 20 minutes ago. Jeez. Time flies. And Pengu never said anything else. That's cool. You don't have to. You're welcome to just hang out and listen. But yeah, so I rambled a bit today. It's been a very long week. I'm finishing up this semester, and so I've been doing a lot all at once. But it's good. It's all good. All the Gemhammer stuff is coming along. right along. Very, very excited. I part of me wants to just like read through a ton of these, but again, I want to like leave some mystery. I really just wanted to like kind of like talk about feats, like I said before, generally how we want to treat them and how they're going to interact with some of the new content. I was really hoping there'd be more questions. Wait, I think I only answered one of the questions for, and it was the silly one. It was like, when are you guys launching? And we've said that a million times. October 15th. Mark your calendars. What are the other questions we had from last week that we got sent? Hold on one second. So I've got like multiple screens, so I'm like dancing around trying to find. I've also got 90 million tabs open because I'm the kind of person that tends to do that. At any rate, well, these were about. No, these are from week before last. These were about the Decademic Dungeons, but we've talked about that a bunch, so I'm not going to keep getting into that. When will the preview page be available? I don't know when the preview... This one was about when will the preview page for the Kickstarter be available. The preview page... hold on. So Kickstarter... Warlock Sky to Violence, Gemhammer Games. So, like, the promotional page is available. And here, I'm just going to drop in the chat. And when I post this on YouTube, I'll... We actually posted this on Twitter, I think. I think we've already posted this, but copy link. So, this, like, doesn't give you... Like, I'll put it in the chat for anyone that cares to see. There it is. But it's not like it's just the same image that you've been seeing all along, and coming soon to notify me of launch. It's not like all the art and the cool stuff and the pledge levels. We are going to make that available for people to check out, but it'll probably be a couple weeks before we launch, if not the week we launch. We're not going to like just let people look at it right here, right now. Maybe there are some people... Well, obviously there are people we're partnering with who are going to be able to see that, but we're not just going to like make it available for everybody. But for right now, you can follow that link. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube or the recording, I'll make sure that it's posted somewhere so that you can check it out. Yeah, not too many questions. Man, the first week we had a bunch of people in here asking all sorts of questions. If you're watching this, please send us your questions at scribe@gemhammer.com. We're very excited about this project and the cool stuff coming up, and all the cool stuff that we're going to be doing leading up to it, which I can't talk about yet. I need people to answer their emails, and I think you know who you are, so that I can start talking about some of this stuff. I'm just kidding. Most of them probably aren't watching this right now. But anyway, because there's only two of you. And if it was one of those people, they'd probably be like, Conor, stop that. Alright, yeah, I've been talking for 45 minutes, and I've been vague and mysterious about some of this stuff, so hopefully that encourages some of you to ask some questions for next week, or maybe in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. But I'm going to head out. This has been great. We're going to do this... We're going to do this every week, because I like talking about this stuff, because this is what I do all day, all week, and it's encouraging to sit here and be like, this is all the cool stuff that we're doing, and I get to sit here and be excited for all of you. Not that I'm like bursting with excitement, but I'm just, yeah, cool stuff coming, and anyway. So yeah, so I'm gonna head out, but next week we're gonna do this again, and we're gonna keep doing it all the way right up until we launch. So you folks keep bringing us your questions. Keep showing up. Pengu, thanks for following. I appreciate it. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye. 3 weeks. 3 weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row. I have screwed up this transition. You know what? At this point, I should just do it on purpose, just to make it a thing. This has been great. Thanks everyone for hanging out, and for your jeez. Sorry, I'm like watching it on the delay too on my phone, so it's like anyway, this has been great. We're gonna do this again next week, so hope to see you all again soon. See you next week. Bye.